Welcome to The Human Element, presented by Whisk. I'm your host, Barb Bidan, and in each episode, I sit down with CHROs and senior HR leaders to explore how AI, innovation, and human insight are reshaping the future of HR. We'll explore how technology is reshaping leadership, strategy, and the role of HR by sharing candid stories, practical ideas, and strategic perspectives to help you shape the future. The Human Element is brought to you by Whisk, the leader in agentic HR and creator of Harper, the world's first AI HR generalist. Learn how Harper can resolve up to 80% of routine HR tasks autonomously. Learn more about Whisk at whisk.com. My guest today is Liz McSaveny, the Chief People Officer at Zurich Canada. Liz has spent more than 2 decades leading large-scale transformation across industries with a clear focus on aligning talent, leadership, and business performance. At Zurich, she's driving a modern data-informed HR agenda, pushing the function beyond support into a true lever for enterprise change. So today, we're getting into what it actually means for HR to operate as a business function, also how to balance technology with judgment and where leaders need to step up. Liz, thank you so much for joining me on the show today.
Thank you, Barb. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Fellow Canadian, I am super excited to talk. Zurich is a global insurance giant, right? A large company. What does it actually mean to lead people strategy at this scale? And how has that shaped how you're thinking about innovation within your HR team?
So when you're talking about this type of organization, highly complex, highly regulated, very data rich, leading the innovation it's not just about moving fast for the sake of it. It's really about how do we move with discipline. Insurance is highly data rich. We've got underwriting, claims, risk, and that really shapes how we look at our people decisions and how we approach that. And we're used to thinking more in trade-offs. So instead of looking at AI and asking the question, should we be using it? It's more, have we created enough clarity and trust for people to use it well and use it responsibly? In a global company like ours, you're balancing global mandates with what employees need day to day. And that's a constant translation and constant orchestration that you have to manage. You've got global consistent standards that gives you consistency, protection, and that matters a lot in our business. I think it matters across any business, but when you're working in a heavy regulated industry like insurance, that really matters. But a lot of the work is experienced locally. And so our role, we don't own AI. We don't own the technology, but we work very closely in partnership with our colleagues in IT, in communications and transformation, and our business leaders so that we can help set really clear boundaries. And most importantly, we can help leaders apply judgment in ways that actually improve how work gets done. And I think what a regulated global environment has really taught me is credibility matters way more than speed. Trust is built through clarity. It's not around the hype. It's around how do we reduce the fear and inconsistency so that people can evolve and change with it and not freeze because of it.
Completely. And in addition to being regulated, you talked about the industry being data rich, right? Obviously heavily reliant on data. How has that culture shaped how you approach people decisions within your organization?
We've really looked at, obviously, the piece when you're talking about data is always like the quality of the data. And so that matters no matter what framework you're using, no matter what technology you're working with. So making sure that we have good, sound, quality data, really looking at, we use a lot of the data, especially the data that's driven by AI with respect to underwriting claims, even the people side of it. It's our decision support methodology. And then we really leverage our judgment, our accountability, our ability to synthesize all of that data as that decision-making tool. So it's not that technology is making decisions for us. It's how are we leveraging it and how are we applying what makes us uniquely human to using the data.
And you also said that credibility matters so much more than speed, at least right at the outset, I would imagine. What would you tell an HR leader that is stepping into a similar regulated or global role for the first time?
Again, moving not so much with the speed, but how do you understand the business that you're operating in? How do you know what matters most to your leaders? And how does that then translate in what you're doing from a people agenda? It's taking the time to build the trust, the rapport, putting the right governance models in place. You hear a lot of discussions now around AI is putting ethics and governance around that. That, yes, might slow things down, but it doesn't have to slow things down to a halt. You can still move at pace. You can still move responsibly. But when you take the time to understand where people are coming from, when you take the time to explain to them how to use the tools, how to leverage this in the best way, you start to create, you've involved them in discussion, you start to create that trust and transparency around it, and you take away from the noise that you hear outside of the walls of your organization. I'm sure we've all seen the headlines, companies replacing people with AI or AI is taking away people's jobs. So it's really important to involve people in the conversation and talk to them about how are we using it? How does it help enable you as a human and augment the work that you're doing? Recently, I was at the Transform conference in Las Vegas, and Lance Armstrong was one of the keynote speakers on the final morning. And he talked about AI in two components. He said there are two AIs. There's the AI that we know, artificial intelligence, and then there's the augmented intelligence. And it really stuck with me because the augmented intelligence is what is uniquely us. It's what we do with the data and how we use it. And so there's a responsibility for us in HR to really help narrate and draft that conversation.
Yeah, and you mentioned working with your partners in transformation, IT, corporate communications. AI is really showing up in insurance in very real ways, right? In underwriting and claims, sifting through all that data that we're talking about to drive better decisions. What can you share about the places where Zurich is using AI and how your team is playing a role in making all of that work for your employees?
So we use AI in a number of ways. We use it in underwriting and claims. So as you mentioned, in underwriting and claims specifically, you have to sift through so much data in order to render the right decision that is the right choice for our clients, whether it's determining whether or not to underwrite a book of business, or on the other side, when a claim is filed and looking through the merits of the claim and how we move forward. Artificial intelligence enables an underwriter or a claims professional to sift through that data much quicker than before. And it pulls in, it's built on the intelligence of underwriting and claims. So it's not something that was an out of the box here, let's apply it to what we do. It's built off of the key decisions that we've made in the past, the best industry practices. And it really allows us to use that augmented intelligence. So you still need underwriters and you still need claims professionals that know their profession really well, but it really helps to create a more interesting value proposition when it comes to the work that we do. We also use it across our business. We use it in HR. Primarily, we use things in talent acquisition. Our organization uses Copilot. We have a technology that we call ZuriChat, very appropriately at Zurich. But what ZuriChat is a chat GPT with a protective barrier around it that enables employees to use it in a safe way. And really, that has changed how people have shown up at work. I was in an HR team meeting the other day, and we try to have little conversations about how are we using it? Have you tried this? And one of the individuals on my team is an individual contributor, gets a lot of meeting requests. It's really hard to manage her inbox. And she had just talked about creating essentially an administrative assistant using Copilot, which again, that helps free up a lot of her time so she can spend more time consulting with her clients and really helping them through the challenging problems that they face.
Yeah, the sharing within the team and we're doing show and tells within my team right now. And every single time someone shares something that they've built, there's someone who's able to layer onto it, change it, make it better, improve it. And then next thing you know, there's 5 people using it, which it feels like a really great way, create adoption. And from a pull standpoint versus push within the team, at least I'm finding, sounds like you're seeing something similar there with your team as well.
Yeah, for sure.
And what about that protective barrier and the idea of putting sensitive data into an AI-enabled system? Can you talk about how that's been tested, or what sort of process did you go through to come to feel comfortable with the fact that we've got sensitive data here in this brand new AI tool?
Yeah. So what I love about working for a global company is and I think I talked about it earlier, having that global standard has really benefited us as an organization because we've set this up globally in terms of we know we need to invest in this. It's important for our business. It's important for our customers and brokers because it enables us to work at speed, but we have to work in a responsible way. And those guardrails were really set up from a global standpoint and then looked at locally in terms of what additional parameters do we need to put in place? But more importantly, what we've done, Barb, and what I'm really happy about as an organization is we've not just launched these tools and said, hey, here they are, go out and use them, figure it out, have access to LinkedIn Learning and Coursera and those types of things. But we really took ownership around, first of all, if you want to use Copilot, you have to go through a mandatory training. And we actually ask people to recertify every year. And so what that means is we're teaching people, here's what Copilot is. Here's how it can be used to the best of your ability to enhance your job. And here are the things that you need to watch out for. And I can speak to this because I just finished my refresh training yesterday. We also quiz people. So we do a lot of training, a lot of ethics and data privacy and things like that everybody in the organization has gone through. And this is now another layer to marry that all up to really make sure that people are thinking about, this is what Copilot can be best used for. This is what ZuriChat can be best used for. And to make people really think about the types of data that they're putting in, who has access to it, how the tool is self-learning through that data. And I find that people have been very receptive to that. It's allowed people to think in different ways and to really understand the power of these tools, both the power of what it can do for you, but also the power if you put something that you shouldn't be putting into it. And so, yeah, I've found that people have been really receptive to how we've rolled it out and how we've been talking about it at leadership meetings and really driving the behavior change that we need to around this technology.
And so now that your team has been hands-on here, can you tell me about a time where you got some data or some output from AI that surprised you? Maybe something that was revealed through the use of the new tools that you have that you maybe didn't expect?
I can talk about it in this type of platform. So I've doing this, getting ready for this podcast. I've done a few panel conversations in the last couple of months. Something that Copilot did that I didn't know had the capability of doing. So obviously I talked to my communications colleagues. I talked to my team as I'm preparing for these types of activities to make sure that I'm landing the right messages and saying the things that I need to say on behalf of our organization. And then I can plug that into Copilot to help me formulate how I want to approach the discussions. But Copilot also took it one step further and was able to give me, based on the vast amount of data that it has access to in our organization and the amount of data that it has access to in terms of what Zurich talks about publicly, it gave me here's what you can talk about and share publicly because this is common knowledge, it's on open platforms. And here's the stuff that, you talk about it every day, but really we shouldn't. It's not for public consumption. And I thought that was I've talked to a few people that use Copilot and everyone seemed surprised that it could do that. And so I was really pleasantly surprised that it has that ability to give you those guardrails without even prompting it.
Yeah, I think that is where a layer of richness, right, comes into answers. I found it similarly useful for prepping for speaking engagements, that sort of thing. And the difference between asking for an answer, which is level one, right, use of a tool, and then instead having the tool rely on a vast array of information that you maybe it's not like top of mind for you in the moment, but surfacing it as it relates to what you're asking, the depth and richness of answers that I know my team is finding is fantastic. We're using it for a lot of culture-based work and that sort of thing as well, but it's pulling in some really unique facts that maybe we would have never possibly thought to resurface in that context without AI.
And in the context of everyone's working, we're moving so fast. And there's so many deliverables, and everybody talks about the volume of workload that you have on your desk. And really, the key is to sell this as a real enabler for your day to day and to really help streamline. So in the example you just gave, when you're normally preparing for a presentation or you're preparing for a client meeting, you're sifting through a lot of data to make sure that you have the right information, you're putting things together in the right framework. And that takes time. And what I found that these tools can do is they can help streamline that, sift through the data that you didn't even think you needed to sift through, or data that might have taken you hours or days to go through, which many people feel like they don't have that time in their day to day these days. And so, then it really allows you to focus on what matters most and really, again, use that. When they talk about it in the AI sphere as the human in the loop, it's using what we uniquely offer as human beings to really leverage our judgment, our empathy, and really our knowledge of our subject matter to then bring that to life in a way that is then easily consumable by other human beings.
I know that's the exciting thing for our teams, right? We've used so much of our horsepower in the past in sifting through data on our own or reconciling data sets, things like that. And now, with the time that AI tools can save us, we have that opportunity to be doing the human things that I know our teams really love doing, but sometimes have felt in the past that they haven't had the time or the bandwidth really to get to, I think. So listen, you're hiring and you've got an L&D manager role with an added focus on building AI capability, which I love. I love to see AI being appropriately embedded, right, in all of the jobs that we're hiring for. But it is a commitment, right, to go out and look for someone with that skill set and then ensure that you're using it. What is one problem that you're looking for that hire to solve, or what you're looking for that hire to come in and help build towards?
So we're really looking for somebody that has the capability, because it's not the tools, it's not the access to the tools. We have that. But what we're finding is it's the gap between access and adoption. So yes, we have them. Yes, we do training, but there's a lot of research out there. I think McKinsey and others have come up with a lot of statistics around why transformation or AI transformation fails. And it's not because of the technology itself, it's because of leadership. We're looking at how do we build better leaders? How do we have leaders who have clarity, confidence, and practical guidance to navigate their people through these transitions? And so I often find what leaders get wrong, they treat AI as a tool instead of looking at it as how do we shift capability? And they often don't model it themselves for probably various different reasons. We need them to define what good looks like, and we need them to then also be open to the fact that we want people to be innovative. And in order to be innovative, you've got to make mistakes. And so we talk a lot as an organization that we want to drive speed and agility in our business. We want to drive an innovative mindset, and we try to actively encourage folks. It's okay to make mistakes. Just make the mistakes, learn quickly, fail fast, and move on to the next thing. And so I think for us, it's around how do we keep performance management human led and really build those high trust conversations with leaders and their direct reports. And that all has to come before automation. And that is, in the number of years that I've worked in HR, that leadership conundrum is always the thing that you're always trying to solve for, because people are people and they have their own ways of working. And so I would say if the person that we hire in this role, they will coordinate with other technical trainers in our business who report into the technical leads in our business. But if they've done their job, I would say in a couple of years from now, I would feel comfortable if we had a workforce that was not afraid of AI. They were really clear on how their work was changing, and they had far more confidence in using AI to augment their judgment. So that augmented intelligence piece, it's not about replacing what they do, it's how do we augment it. And I feel if we have a workforce that feels all of that in the next couple of years, we've done the right things.
Completely. Have you considered how that this leader coming in with some AI expertise, in addition to up-leveling the general AI skill set, could help you look at some of your existing programs and learning offerings, that sort of thing, to figure out how AI may need to be woven into those things as well?
Absolutely. And in fact, we have, with a transformation that we're going through, we're hiring a number of different roles in HR, and we're actually demanding this from everyone that comes in. We want them to have that transformative mindset. We want them to have the ability to look at how we leverage AI in everything that we do in HR. And so for this individual, it's looking at how do we make it a continuum across everything that we do, regardless of what people do day to day, regardless of their function or their business unit, and really working with those technical leaders in the business, whether it's technical underwriting, claims, marketing, and distribution. And how do we bring that narrative together across all the things that we do? We do a lot of, Zurich is very committed to learning and development, to creating the right development opportunities for folks, to really have a focus on succession planning and management. And so if you're going to do that, you've got to put the robustness behind that to really help people develop and have the right skill set and the right mindset. And no easy task for somebody coming into this role. It's a brand new role for us here in Canada. And I think that cohesion is going to be really important in what they do.
Yeah, and I love the mention of how you're hiring for AI skill set or AI curiosity, probably at
Yeah.
minimum for listeners who haven't heard. I've shouted out Brandon Summit at Zapier a couple of times, but there are a few great rubrics out there online now to help embed this into your interviewing process and actually make it part of how you select, so that at least you are inviting new hires into your organization who are aligned with this sort of level of AI curiosity that you're promoting. And I know that's something we're working on right now. It sounds something that you've also embedded into your hiring processes in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you are in the throes of a global HRIS upgrade. That's been there. So
Yeah.
I feel for you. You're also navigating AI adoption at scale and hiring for a capability that not only that you're still defining, but we're all still defining. We're trying to do the right things, and the definition is evolving very fast. Do you think that HR leaders are getting wrong as they're trying to do the same things that you're trying to do here?
I think, and this is easy to do, you get focused on the tool instead of the mindset and the leadership capability. I can say with all honesty, I started at a time when the internet was like the thing, and that was the buzz that everybody was trying to adopt to. There's always a new technology. Now, this is accelerating at a pace we've never seen before, but the gap between leaders who are using AI and those who aren't, it's not about technology, it's about clarity. Effective leaders need to be explicit about how AI fits into the work that folks are doing, and not getting into the confusion of, let's say, let's be innovative without defining what good innovation looks like and what good use looks like. And so rather than focusing solely on the tool, it's how do you define what that tool unlocks for people and how they can use it. I think HR's credibility is often at risk when the employee population feels like AI is happening to them. And it certainly doesn't help when you see a lot of those headlines in the media where it does feel like it's something that's either being imposed on them or something that's coming to take away what they do or how they do things. It's really important for HR leaders to bring people along with the conversation, having very clear messaging, being very consistent about how you're messaging it, how it's going to be defined. I think trust can erode very quickly in an environment. It's change management communication 101 is just having clear, consistent communication. An old boss of mine years ago used a saying that I use with my folks a lot is the key to adult learning is repetition. And that has really stuck with me in anything that we're doing. I would say the one thing I'd want every leader to think about in the HR space is really to get crystal clear with your business leaders, with your business, articulate what AI is and what it isn't. And don't do a strategy deck, just have a straightforward conversation with folks. That will build trust and clarity, not only for rolling out AI, but it serves as a great toolkit for whatever comes next. We don't know what's coming next, but something is going to come after this. And so really just getting those basics on communication and clarity will really go a long way.
So, if you could speak to every HR leader listening and offer them one thing, a real action, not a broader strategy, but some action that they could take this week, what would you suggest?
Get comfortable with it yourself first. I've talked to a number of leaders that they're still unsure with it. And listen, we all are. We're learning. We're learning so quickly and we're having to learn so quickly. Listen to podcasts, read articles, play around in the tools yourself. I think people need to just get crystal clear on what it is and how does it enhance your work? Because we all know the power of storytelling. So if I can go out and ask my team, hey, let's share tips and tricks. We just talked about that, using tips and tricks on how to use Copilot, but I haven't used it myself, or I'm not clear about how it can benefit me. My team is not looking at me like she's talking about it, but she's not using it. So why should I? And so I would say the thing you can do today is just get really comfortable with it yourself and be honest about what you're comfortable with and what you're still learning and maybe where you're struggling, because through those conversations, you might actually get input from your team that helps you progress as a leader.
Yeah, I think there's value for leaders to as much value as there is in knowing and having some expertise in AI. It's the vulnerability of learning it alongside of your team as well and demonstrating that's okay. I think that's one of the places where, any change management methodology would tell us we're likely to see resistance, right? As if people don't feel that it's okay to not know. Like we need people to be okay in a place of not knowing and learning in order to be open to change. Otherwise, that can show up as resistance and other things we really don't
Agree.
want it to show up as. So this has been an awesome conversation, Liz. I want to take us though into the lightning round.
Ooh.
We always end with a rapid fire set of questions for guests. So what is one AI tool that you think HR should actually be using right now? Maybe not the one that everyone's necessarily talking about, but one that is working.
If you have it, Copilot. I love that it is embedded across every workflow that we have, every app that we have. It allows me to do so many things, and it pulls work from different pieces and different applications that I'm using into one place. And so if you have it, that would be my first recommendation, is to use it.
All right. And so I will contextualize this next one and say, so at work, if you had to choose one between Copilot, ZuriChat, and ChatGPT, pick one to keep. If you could only have one, which would you pick and why?
That's hard because I love them all. I would still say Copilot again because of the way it's got that enterprise governance approach to it. It's relevant to everything that I do every day. ZuriChat would have been my second one because it has a lot of technical information in there that helps me as an HR professional understand the business that we're in. But Copilot can pull from there.
Yep.
Copilot is still my number one.
Absolutely. What is the biggest myth about AI in HR within a regulated company?
I would say that people think that regulation means that innovation isn't possible. And that's not what it's about. It just requires discipline. But frankly, I think that is true for anywhere and any company that you work in. It is not impossible to innovate. You can still do it at a pace and a speed. You just have to have a disciplined approach to how you use it and how you roll it out.
Could not agree more with that one. I have seen such a pace within enterprise companies around innovating and adopting AI right now that surprised me as someone who's spent a lot of time in earlier stage growth companies. I've been very impressed by how enterprise companies are adopting AI. So I would agree. So what is one HR process that you would absolutely positively never hand over to AI?
I would say final decisions on humans, right? So whether that's performance reviews, employee relations decisions, hiring decisions, for me, judgment stays human. And that's the thing that we do better than any other machine. Sorry, machines, but we do that better. And we should absolutely always leave the judgment to the human beings and use the data set that you're provided in order to render those judgments.
Great. So last one, finish this sentence for me. The HR leaders who will matter most in the next decade are the ones who blank.
I think those are the ones that they create clarity and trust as work keeps changing. It's going to change. It's going to evolve. Clarity and trust cannot be undersold.
Fantastic. This was great, Liz. I normally write frantically as we're talking so I can synthesize some of the highlights that I picked up. Our listeners always grab those and then some. So let me take a crack at it. Back to what you just said, and also what we started with was creating clarity and trust to help your team use AI. So I also noted being clear with the team about what AI is and what it isn't, and clarity on how you're going to use it, like what the guardrails are for your company. So that was my first big takeaway. I loved just a small sell point that you shared is selling AI as an enabler of your day-to-day. I think that's a really great way to promote adoption, right? If people feel that first, then I think their minds really, they have a moment, right, where they open their minds to what else AI can do. I also noted the stat that you shared that 70% of AI tech solutions are failing due to leadership or poor leadership. And so I know that you are working to build better leaders actively and being explicit as a leader or creating leaders that can be explicit about how AI fits into the work with their teams and also creating that clarity for them. And the last kind of where we ended, do not focus on the tool. That's something we've talked about quite a bit on the show. Focus on the work first, and and then select the tool that creates an unlock within your ability to do that work. So that was how I synthesized what
Great
we
summary.
talked about today. I really enjoyed our conversation. We always give guests the absolute last word. So I'm going to end with one thing. What do you want the HR leader who's just listened to us chat today, driving home, listening to the podcast, what do you want them to think about on the rest of their drive home?
I hope this sparks curiosity, because that is really what new tools and technology are all about. Be curious, don't be afraid of it. I really fundamentally believe if you see this, just like everything else that we've been thrown at over the last however many years, as an enabler for you, it really unlocks the fear and it unlocks the curiosity. I think that is where, if you're curious, the fear subsides, because then you start to think about, how can I use this for my benefit? And then that translates into, how do I help benefit my organization?
Great advice, Liz. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. It was great to talk with you.
You as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us on The Human Element, presented by Whisk. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to follow The Human Element wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Barb Bidan. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.